A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a controversial move that has drawn sharp criticism from human rights advocates and international observers, the United States has imposed sanctions on Francesca Albanese, a United Nations official tasked with investigating human rights abuses in the occupied Palestinian territories. This action marks the latest effort by the Trump administration to penalize those who speak out against Israel's military operations in Gaza, which have escalated dramatically since the outbreak of conflict following the Hamas-led attack on October 7, 2023. Albanese, an Italian lawyer and academic, is one of several independent human rights experts designated by the UN to report on various issues and crises around the world. Although these experts do not officially represent the UN, their findings are critical in assessing human rights records across nations, often influencing international legal actions and public opinion. Albanese has gained notoriety for her outspoken stance against Israel's military actions, recently describing them as one of the cruelest genocides in modern history during her address to the UN Human Rights Council. Her statements have sparked a backlash, particularly from pro-Israel advocates who accuse her of bias and anti-Semitism. In a recent podcast interview, Albanese elaborated on her views, stating that Israel's actions are aimed at ethnic cleansing, claiming that the military campaign is designed to force Palestinians from their homes and render their living conditions uninhabitable. Following her vocal criticisms, the U.S. government has reacted strongly, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio announcing the sanctions against Albanese, citing her alleged support for terrorism and anti-Semitic remarks. Rubio emphasized that the U.S. would not tolerate actions that threaten its national interests and sovereignty, framing the sanctions as a necessary response to Albanese's conduct. The sanctions have been met with widespread condemnation from human rights organizations, who argue that they undermine the work of independent investigators and the principles of international law. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have both issued statements calling for the protection of special rapporteurs and urging governments worldwide to resist U.S. efforts to stifle accountability for human rights violations. Albanese herself has characterized the U.S. sanctions as attempts to intimidate and silence her mission. In her remarks following the announcement, she expressed her determination to continue her work, questioning the rationale behind the sanctions and asserting that they were a response to her exposure of what she terms genocide. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has also called for a reversal of the sanctions, advocating for constructive engagement rather than punitive measures in addressing disagreements among member states. The situation in Gaza remains dire, with reports indicating that Israeli military operations have resulted in the deaths of over 57,000 Palestinians, a majority of whom are reported to be women and children. This staggering toll has raised alarms among international observers and human rights advocates, who are increasingly concerned about the humanitarian crisis unfolding in the region. As tensions continue to escalate, the international community faces pressing questions about accountability, the protection of human rights, and the role of powerful nations in influencing global justice. The sanctions against Albanese represent a significant moment in the ongoing discourse surrounding Israel's actions in Gaza, highlighting the complex interplay of politics, human rights, and international law in a deeply divided world. As the situation develops, it remains to be seen how these sanctions will impact the broader conversation about human rights in conflict zones and the future of independent investigations into alleged abuses. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.